Given the choice between bankruptcy and tariff fraud, many e-commerce companies will commit tariff fraud. Now, why are they facing bankruptcy if they don't commit tariff fraud? I'll use my own company as an example. So I manufacture this item, and let's say in round numbers, this is made in China. In round numbers, it cost me $10 to make it. I sell it for $40. There's a 35% tariff that predates Trump with 145% tariffs. Now there's a 180% total tariff. If I pay 180% tariff on my $10 item, that's an extra $18. So now instead of selling it for 40, I have to sell it for about 80. Now, if my competitor values that item at $2, they're going to pay a $3.60 tariff. So they're going to be able to sell that item for, let's say, $50. When I import these goods, I buy, say, $100,000 of goods at a time. I then pay $180,000 worth of tariffs. Now I have $280,000 worth of goods. And if I think my competitors are going to be able to sell that for $50 when I have to sell it for $80, I'm now going to get stuck with $280,000 worth of goods that I cannot sell. Therefore, fraud. It's going to happen. Let's discuss the common ways people try to get around the tariffs and use loopholes, or what they believe is loopholes, to reduce their tariff bill. And we'll discuss sort of your odds of getting caught and ramifications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll start at the beginning. The most obvious one is import the same goods, change the label, say made in Thailand. I'm just going to pick on Thailand because a lot of people transship through there, but it could be Cambodia, Vietnam, many, many other countries. If it's coming in a boat from China, there's like probably a 50% chance they're going to catch you if it says made in Thailand and ask for more documentations, and you're going to get caught. So let's go to the next level of complexity, which is I'm going to ship it to Thailand, and they're either going to replace the label, or maybe it'll already have the made in Thailand label from the Chinese factory, but the origin is going to be Thailand, and it's going to say made in Thailand. So how are they going to catch me? Well, most of the time they won't. But there's a few ways that they're going to catch people. Now, if you're shipping a few packages at, sub $2,500, you probably get away with it realistically. If you're doing containers, you probably get caught at some point. And there's a few ways they can catch you. First, if they see that the class of goods was traditionally not made in Thailand, so let's say you only made a few thousand of these a year in Thailand overall, or let's say 100,000. And then suddenly with the tariffs, there's 5 million a year coming out of Thailand. They're going to investigate everyone who's buying that item out of Thailand because they know there's no way the capacity increased that much that quickly. Second, whistleblowers. Your competitors, really anyone, can file a whistleblower complaint to Customs and Border Protection. They get, I think, 30% of whatever is recovered, so they have a very large financial incentive. So if anyone knows you're committing this fraud, or a competitor suspects you're committing this fraud, because it's kind of obvious if you only raise the price from 40 to 50 and the tariff went from added $18 or added $15, it's pretty obvious. They're going to report you. If you get caught, they get paid. So not only do they remove a competitor, they actually get a percentage of the collected, so they will report you. Also, their systems have gotten better, and they can look at your actual imports. So if they see that you traditionally made this item in China, now, miraculously, none of it's from China, all of it's from Thailand, that raises a red flag. Now you're going to say, well, it's just from Thailand. How are they going to prove that it was actually made in China? Well, they don't have to prove it. You have to prove that it isn't. So they'll do an audit. You have to demonstrate that it was made in Thailand and not just swapping a label. So this is probably the most important part of the conversation, is what work has to get done in the other country to enable it to be called a product of the other country. So it doesn't have to be made from scratch in Thailand, right? It could have some goods coming from China, but the bar is really high. So first of all, for apparel, it's almost undoable. There's special rules about that, so I'm not going to waste any more time there. For non-apparel, it's still pretty hard. So the test is sort of like 30 or 35% of the value has to be coming from that last country, so from Thailand, and it has to be substantially transformed. So if the item is roughly the same, when it's like the same HS code coming into the United States, that it left China on its way to Thailand, that's not going to count. There's a lot of precedent, and it can get complicated as to what is considered substantial transformation and what is not. You can actually go to CBP in advance and ask them to approve that is substantial transformation. It is not simple, and it's not always obvious what you will get away with and what you will not. But if you think the bar is low, it's not. It's high. It is hard to demonstrate it, and people have been trying to get around customs forever, for longer than we've all been alive. So there's a lot of law and precedent on the side of the government to require you to pay the higher tariff. Now, okay, well, so maybe they'll catch me. I was gonna have to pay the tariff anyways. Well, let's talk about penalties. So if you did it accidentally, they'll do a 5-year audit and they'll charge you twice what you underpaid. If they believe you did it intentionally, they'll charge you 4 times that. Additionally, they can do criminal prosecution. So I have a friend, it's her story to tell, but she allegedly committed tariff fraud, customs fraud, and she did have officers show up at her house, arrest her, seize all her assets, and subject her to criminal prosecution. That is highly unlikely, but it does happen. CBP is part of the US government. They have that enforcement arm. I heard a funny way to get around it, which is, well, I'm going to make content in my factory, and I'm going to make that cost of content not be in the cost of goods, so I don't have to pay tariffs for the goods for the full price. Actually, it's kind of, maybe you could do it for that day's goods. I don't know. That was an interesting one. But in general, what people try to do is they try to separate the cost of goods into 2 invoices. So they'll say, okay, the factory did design services, that was $5, production, $5. I'm only paying tariffs on the production, not the design services. That simply doesn't work. You have to pay on all the work, even if the design services were done by a totally separate company. If it's a non-US company, you still have to pay the tariffs on it. Next, well, if I created a mold and some tooling and I don't want to pay the tariff on that part, I'll just pay on the actual production. Again, unless those tooling or those molds were shipped into the United States and you pay tariff on it separately, or created within the United States. But if they were created at your factory and they stay at your factory, you can't exclude for that reason. So again, the bar is really high. It's a really tough situation. I know people are trying to find a lot of ways around it, but the system is pretty advanced. There's a lot of case law, and it's not easy to find loopholes around paying the tariffs. Thanks for watching.